Welcome, students, to the Color Candidate Debate. Before we begin, we would like to recognize all the special interest groups and campaign managers who created various posters, infographics, and videos that inform the school. We also recognize each candidate representative and remind you that the representatives' replies to questions today do not reflect their own political views. We will now begin with an opening statement from each color candidate. And candidates, please note that you have 1 to 2 minutes. And candidate Gray, we will begin with you.
As you said, my name is Candidate Gray, and I am running for President of the United States of America. I believe the United States of America is a great country, a country that I am proud to call my home. However, I feel we have fallen off the path to greatness. It is apparent that this nation has several issues that we as American people need to fix. Washington has neglected to fix several of these issues, and many of these politicians are doing not what is best for this country, but what is best for their own careers. And as an individual who is not molded into a politician, I would love to get this nation back on the path to greatness.
Thank you. Candidate Yellow.
How you guys doing today? Well, just like a lot of my policies, I'd like to get straight to the point with you people. I am representing candidate Yellow, and he has spent his entire life building a fortune and working with people all across this great country. And today I'd like to tell you that we are looking to get people just like you to back him up. He would like us all to come together now with all the problems that we're facing from day-to-day life and come together to make this country great again. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Purple.
So I'm Candidate Purple, and I just want to say that a huge thing to me is that there's people in this country, and we need our government to be run by the people, not the dollars behind the top 10th percent, way up there at the top. So we need to make sure that, I would make sure that when I'm president, that your vote would count, and that candidate wouldn't be run by X corporation that donated $4 million.
Thank you, Candidate Purple. Candidate Green.
I believe that I should be president because I believe in a free chance for everyone, regardless of their parents or where they came from. I believe that we should have a chance for everyone to become an American citizen no matter where they came from or what everyone else thinks about them. That is why I should be president.
Thank you, Candidate Green. Candidate Brown.
I started off in a very modest middle-class family, and I worked my way up to the business world until I was able to gain many powerful international connections. My story of success is only possible in this amazing nation, and it proves that every single one of us has amazing potential. I'm Candidate Brown, and I'm running for president because I intend to close this gap between the people and the government. We have come to a pivotal point in our nation's history where the nation's possibilities and potential are being crushed by a government grown so big, so powerful, so inept, so corrupt, and a political class that refuses to do anything about it. I intend to speak for the people and with the people. As president, I will not stand idly by and allow the many issues that we face to get worse. I'm a very passionate conservative leader, and I am prepared to lead the resurgence of this great nation.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. Candidate Orange.
Hello, I'm Candidate Orange. I believe that now is the greatest time to be an American in our country. But Washington is holding us back, and the politicians in Washington are holding us back. Taxes, immigration policy, many other policies need to be reformed, and as president, I will fix the broken system and protect our nation.
Thank you, Candidate Orange. We will now begin with the questions. Each representative's color is in a can, and 2 colors will be drawn at random. The two representatives will then address the following question. Our two colors are yellow and gray. Question number 1. Is it realistic to think that we can get rid of all the terrorists? If so, how do you plan on doing so? If not, what is your plan for keeping America safe? Candidate Gray, please start us off.
I believe we have to give it our best shot to protect this nation from terrorist organizations. I believe we have gotten in this mindset that we are fighting politically correct wars, and honestly, a politically correct war is a stupid war, and a war that I do not want to fight. We need to utilize tremendous intellect that we have in our military to win our wars. People complain about the size of our military, but it has been the smallest it has been in years. Senator Lindsey Graham has reported the Army is the smallest it has been since 1940, predating the United States World War II. And the Navy is the smallest it has been since 1915, over 100 years ago and predating World War I. I very much look forward to working with the Joint Chiefs and giving them the tools they need to meet our needs. And I feel many of our military funding decisions are not made for our military leaders, but for their own sake. So I support that we need to be funding our military and a non-politically correct war.
Thank you. Candidate Yellow.
Okay, so look. I do not believe it's realistic to get rid of all terrorists. I don't think that's even remotely possible. There's always going to be terrorists and people that want to take down our amazing country. However, I do feel like as a country we need to band together to be more strong with our decisions and to be more decisive. I feel like when it comes to fighting these terrorists, we should take it straight to their homeland and we should hold nothing back. Whether it be to bomb them, to get back the amazing... I'm sorry. We need to take whatever actions are necessary to fight them, to keep our country safe, and not back down from them.
Alrighty, thank you.
This next question will be for all candidates. You are required to answer. Explain how you would or would not change the United States immigration policy. We will start with candidate Gray.
Honestly, I believe that the immigration policy needs to be tweaked in some ways, changed in others. First off, I would like to incorporate a guest worker program that is modeled off of the Canadian model that has been very successful over the years. With that being said, I would like to enforce harsher punishments for employers who employ undocumented or illegal immigrants. According to the United States Immigration Services, the minimum fine or fee is only $375 per worker. I feel for someone who's breaking a federal law, that would need to be increased. I believe we not only need to strictly enforce this, but we need to increase this minimum as well. Thank you.
Candidate Yellow.
All right, so I'll be the first to admit that our immigration program is far from perfect. Now, the way I see it, there's a lot of things that need to be overhauled and changed. I'd like to break this down into a 3-step process for you. 1, a nation is not a nation without borders. We need to buckle down on the southern border connecting America to Mexico. Currently, almost anyone can come through the borders and do whatever they please as illegal immigrants. I feel we need to find some sort of way to block off our country from theirs, whatever that may be. Second, a nation without laws is not a nation. Now, despite what you guys' personal beliefs might be, it says it in their name, a lot of immigrants that are coming into this country currently are illegal. So if you want to become an immigrant in America, I feel we need to overhaul and take everyone who's not currently legal and make them go back to their home countries. Now, after we get everyone out of our country, we can then open up to having people come back in who deserve to be in our country. And 3, a nation does not serve its own citizens, is not a nation at all. This means that if we are bringing in immigrants that are taking away jobs that are so needed in today's day-to-day life, I believe that it's our duty as a country to limit the amount of immigrants coming in.
Thank you, Candidate Yellow. Candidate Purple.
I think that this country needs a fair and humane immigration policy. I think sometimes we forget one small fact, that immigrants are people. And people have lives, people have feelings, people have families, and we can't have immigrants come to this country illegally and then be paid small wages of like $5 an hour and be living in poverty. The United States has always been a refuge for people that are seeking persecution. When our country first started, it was like the explorers that first came to our country were the second son and the third son and the fourth son of these great nobles that had given everything to their first son, and the second son had just been left with nothing. I don't think we should change what our country has always been, and we should allow people to come here that are seeking refuge from the poverty and the horrible things that they've been exposed to in their previous countries.
Thank you, Candidate Purple. Candidate Green.
So our current immigration policy is that there are 675,000 immigrants allowed to come every year, with minor exceptions for family and political issues and stuff like that. I believe that we should not stop these immigrants from continuing to come because immigrants have helped keep the U.S. population young and dynamic at a time when many of our partners and competitors were aging. We need tougher border control to stop illegal immigrants from getting into our country. And we need paths for the illegal immigrants who are already in our country to gain citizenship so they do not have to work with low wages to try and support their families. That is it.
Thank you, Candidate Green. Candidate Brown.
I believe that we need to close off and secure our borders. Our borders have been insecure for over 25 years. Our legal immigration system has been broken for just as long. We need to do the basics. It's not rocket science. It takes money, it takes manpower, and it takes technology, but a nation that cannot protect its borders cannot protect its sovereignty. We have over 16 separate visa programs today. This is ridiculous. We need to simplify and get our immigration policy to a point where we can contain it and still be able to take care of those that are within our borders right now. I also support the DREAM Act. I think that should be passed. It helps the children of illegal immigrants, and I believe that a path to citizenship can be possible, but only for those who have a clear record. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. Candidate Orange.
I believe that it is a privilege to be an American, and I think that the rules we have now are not tough enough. We should have more stringent rules for immigration. Immigrants will have to go through a background check. Criminals would be turned away immediately. They would have to begin paying taxes and fines immediately when they came in, and they would also have to be able to support themselves without a ton of government help. And they would have to obtain a working permit like all other Americans. Finally, they would have to learn English and eventually earn citizenship.
Thank you, Candidate Orange.
All right, we're moving on to our next question. And Candidate Green and Candidate Orange, you are up. All right, the question is, many citizens around the nation worry and disagree with Common Core ideals. What is your stance or plan for the American people? Candidate Green, we will begin with you.
I believe that getting off to a good start should be our children's birthright, part of the basic bargaining that we have with each other in this nation. Every child should have the tools and skills to thrive in tomorrow's economy, especially those children from our most vulnerable and at-risk communities. As early as 1647, American colonies were concerned about their children's education in 1852, and the compulsory education law required all children to attend primary school. I believe that the core curriculum is not enough to give our children the chances that they need, and that we need to expand upon these ideas to give them a better chance in the competitive society they are growing up in.
Thank you, Candidate Green. Candidate Orange.
States can opt out of Common Core if they really want. But if they do, I want to see high benchmarks for all our students in that state. Many people believe that Common Core is a federal takeover, but in my opinion, Common Core is not a bad thing. I think it should be promoted and supported while retaining state rights.
Thank you, Candidate Orange.
Candidates Purple and Brown, please take to a podium. We would like to say this was not planned at all. Recently, a mass shooting at a community college in Oregon killed 9 people. U.S. President Barack Obama criticizes those who object to stricter gun control laws. Do you agree that we should have a stricter gun control law? If not, what changes would you support in order to prevent mass shootings like this in the future? Candidate Purple.
This is just going to be my thing now. So in Oregon, lone gunmen had 2 handguns and quote unquote enough ammunition to prolong a long gunfight. I think that no one needs like an AK-47 or 4 handguns to hunt deer. You just don't need that. And I think we should start by banning all assault weapon rifles and semi-automatic rifles, which were solely made to kill people. There's no reason that we need to have them in our country. And we should have a cap on ammunition that no one needs 10,000 rounds of ammo in their house. Who needs that?
Thank you, Candidate Purple.
Before we start calling for new laws, I think that we ought to consider why we don't enforce the laws that we have. You have to remember that this college was a gun-free zone, and the perpetrator of these crimes did not abide by the laws that we had. While we do need to be safe with our laws, I think that we need to make sure that our Second Amendment rights are very, very well protected, and that citizens are able to defend themselves when situations like this arise.
Thank you, candidates. All right, candidate Orange and Brown, please take a podium. The question is, on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court ruled that same-sex marriage bans are unconstitutional. Some candidates have promised to repeal this ruling. Do you agree or disagree with the repeal promised? Candidate Brown.
I believe that the Supreme Court overstepped its bounds by nationally legalizing same-sex marriage. However, as president, I will not make any attempt to repeal this act. It is now the law of the land, and I think that we need to make sure that we support people in their decisions and support people's rights to have and to hold religious views in whatever way they choose to have.
If I could make same-sex marriage illegal, then I would. America was founded on Christianity, and same-sex marriage goes directly against Christianity. However, I have stated that I respect same-sex couples, and I realize that, as a president, the Supreme Court decision is not mine to overrule. I intend to follow the Constitution, and the president simply does not have that power.
The next question will be for all candidates. You are required to answer. Labor unions during the Industrial Revolution in 1906 made work safety, compensation, and working conditions better. As we look at today's society, do you see labor unions benefiting as much as they did then? Are they needed? Candidate Orange.
I have supported labor unions in the past. One particular union leader has said that my work has helped that labor unions' needs. However, I have attacked the teachers' union. They are unionized and politicized monopolies that entrap good teachers, administrators, and struggling students in a system nobody can escape. That is all.
Thank you, Candidate Orange.
While I acknowledge that labor unions have been very useful in the past in making conditions better for workers, I believe that today, unions are in part responsible for the gender pay gap. The seniority system, which is very heavily supported by unions, pays employees on account of time and grade rather than on merit and performance. This structure takes away flexibility from employers and leaves women at a disadvantage over men. I also believe that teachers' unions take away a lot of the accountability that teachers need to have over their classrooms, and that teachers should be able to do their best without Common Core and unions supporting them in their claims that children simply can't succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Brown. Actually, if we could have Candidate Gray.
I do acknowledge that labor unions have been useful in the past. In the early days of the industrial age, the advent of unions brought about the kind of collective bargaining and resulted in fair wages and reasonable working conditions. Unfortunately, over time, many of the union bosses concern themselves more with power and influence than their employees that they represent. If the bosses are more worried about power instead of improving, it can only spell disaster for our future generations. A great example is General Motors. By threatening strikes to further their causes, they're able to extract extensive wages and benefits from companies such as General Motors, Ford's, and Chrysler. In the long run, crippling these companies and rendering them non-competitive. As I said, if the bosses concern themselves more with power, our future generations will be put to waste.
Thank you, Candidate Gray. Candidate Yellow.
I would also like to acknowledge that labor unions have been very useful to our country in the past, but I honestly believe that they've done their part. We have safe working environments, we have decent wages, and all around we have good working environments for every legal American in the country. I do feel, however, that we need to focus more on creating more jobs in America versus continuing to make the jobs we currently have better. That is all.
Thank you, Candidate Yellow. Candidate Green.
Labor unions were formed because of capitalist inequality. Labor unions served their purpose back then, and they can still benefit this country's economy, because it is the economy that we should be focusing on more than the labor unions. Because we need a president who understands the urgent economical challenges our families face and who will work as hard for any middle-class family as they work for America.
Thank you, Candidate Green. Candidate Purple.
I don't know that labor unions are necessarily something we really have to have in this country, but if they can raise our minimum wage and give Americans that are living in poverty something that they can actually buy their food with, because millions of Americans are living on a wage that's just not livable in this country, and we need to raise that. And if labor unions can do it, then I say we need them.
Thank you, candidates. All right, Candidate Gray and Candidate Yellow, please take a podium. Our next question is, in 1938, a minimum wage was established by President Theodore Roosevelt. Ever since the minimum wage was established, the amount has increased to $7.25. As many of you know, President Barack Obama is pushing for a minimum wage of $10.10. Do you agree with this proposition? If not, what do you propose? Candidate Gray, we will begin with you.
I can agree with a part of it, absolutely. I believe that we should have minimum wage tiers or levels. I believe that we should have a starting minimum wage for those who are coming into the workforce, such as teenagers or young adults, that they will have a lower minimum wage, and for workers who are more experienced and have been in the workforce for quite a while, they will have a higher minimum wage to meet their cost of living. Having a minimum wage for everyone at different levels, it will make it so young teenagers will be able to still be hired without affecting those who have been in the workforce for a long time. So it will benefit both parties.
Thank you, Candidate Gray. Candidate Yellow.
Well, as I stated before, I do believe that what we have currently as a minimum wage is a decent starting minimum wage. However, I feel that we need to focus more on bringing in jobs that give opportunities for the country to have more high-paying jobs rather than continuing to raise the minimum wage. I feel once that we get more jobs flowing into the country that we won't even need to worry about minimum wage because there's so many opportunities for everyone to be getting much, much higher wages. So I honestly believe that Barack Obama is not correct on that one and that we need to keep it where it's at or around where it's at.
Thank you, Candidate Yellow. Candidates Purple and Green. Changes in taxes are traceable to historical events, such as the passage of the 16th Amendment in 1909, which granted Congress the power to collect a tax on personal income. Other changes on taxes were more gradual, responding to changes in society. In our economy, today, do you see any changes that need to be made to taxes? What changes will you make? Candidate Purple.
Well, I think that we should raise taxes for the wealthy and lower taxes for the less wealthy, because the top 1/10 percentile has as much wealth as the bottom 90%. And those statistics are just like mind-blowing, that we would have so much money up here and so much money down here that it's just the same. So I think it's important that we raise taxes for those that are on the 1/10 and less than for the 90, because America is one of the richest countries in the world, but yet the gap between our higher class and our lower class is huge.
Thank you, Candidate Purple. Candidate Green.
I completely agree with everything that Candidate Purple has said about us needing to change the wages for our higher percentage and have them pay more and pay less for the lower ones. I have nothing else
You
to
mean
say.
taxless?
I don't know. I am confused right now.
Okay.
This was not on my question sheet.
Alrighty, thank you. This next question is for all candidates. You are required to answer. Currently, more than 10 million undocumented aliens reside in our country. This brings up the topic of our open borders and our nation's security. There are many solutions to this issue from other candidates, but what would your approach be? What is the most ethical solution? Candidate Gray.
As I mentioned before in how I would change immigration policy, I would incorporate a guest worker program that would be more effective than the one today, so people are not overstaying their visas and staying in this country illegally. One other thing I could add, though, is sanctuary cities are not as necessary as they used to be. As I said, that we need to incorporate more fines and harsher punishment for those who break federal laws.
Thank you, Candidate Gray. Candidate Yellow.
As I had previously mentioned, I honestly do believe that the time has come that we need to do an overhaul on all the illegal immigrants that are currently staying in our country. The reason for this being is that we never know what they're bringing in, especially from down south. They bring things such as drugs, violence, disease. I think that it's time for us to take them all and send them home. And, you know, after they get sent home and some time has passed and we've been able to get things collected up, then if they are eligible and they are willing to come and live by our laws, then they're perfectly fine to do that. But until then, I think it's time for us to send all of the immigrants home. Not all the illegal immigrants. My bad.
Candidate purple. Candidate green. Oh. At this time, could we have candidate purple and candidate green come to the podium? Candidate green. Please answer the question.
Is it the same question
Are
that
we on the
candidate yellow
same
just
question?
Sorry, we had some miscommunication down here.
You
so
were great,
it's
Al.
the
You were
same.
great.
It's the same question. Candidate purple, please answer the question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. It's okay. Currently, more than 10 million undocumented aliens reside in our country. This brings up the topic of our open borders and our nation's security. There are many solutions to this issue from other candidates, but what would your approach be? What is the most ethical solution?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that those illegal immigrants are people, and they don't just come here for no reason. I mean, they've come here because they want to escape something in their home country, and we can't just send them back to whatever it was that they've worked so hard to get away from. Currently, those 10 million illegal immigrants are possibly being exploited by people that are paying them under the minimum wage so that they can live in poverty again. I mean, we can't treat these people like they've come here and that they're criminals because they've tried to escape something awful in their lives.
Thank you. Canada Green.
We are a nation that was built off of immigration, and so we will respect and treat each other with dignity. I do not believe it is possible or even practical to deport all 10 million illegal immigrants. Instead, I believe that we should strengthen our border control and stop any more illegal immigrants from getting into our country. I believe that all illegal immigrants need a pathway to citizenship, and I believe that if an illegal immigrant breaks the law, that they should be deported.
Candidate Green, are you saying that we shouldn't ever allow anyone to come to our country ever?
I said illegal immigrants should be stopped from coming back to our country. Or that's what I meant to say if I did not say that.
So, if your grandma lives in Mexico...
All right, thank you. Candidate Brown.
Like I said before, I support the DREAM Act. I think that could be a really positive thing for our country. I believe that there's a possibility that illegal immigrants could have a pathway to citizenship, but I do believe that it is ethical to deny them that, because you have to remember we do need to take care of our citizens, and we shouldn't have incentives for people to come into our country illegally, especially when we don't know what their record is before. And I have personally known illegal immigrants who became good, hardworking citizens, and they had that pathway available to them. But we still have to remember we need to take care of our country and secure the borders and do what we can to still be safe and to still treat these immigrants as humanely as possible.
Thank you. Candidate Orange.
The first step to immigrant solution would be to secure our borders. Next, I will remove the reward for illegal crossings by putting in place an electronic hiring system that makes sure that companies are not hiring illegals. I would make sure that everybody overstaying their visas or similar are sent home. I would also make sure that criminals overstaying their visas, or criminals and those who exhibit criminal behavior, are immediately turned away. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Orange. At this time, we'd like to give each candidate an opportunity to give a closing statement. Candidate Gray, we will start with you.
I believe I have many intangibles that I could bring to be the next president of the United States. I want to show the American people that Washington isn't full of half-brained idiots. I'm hoping that I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm very hopeful that I am not the only one who will be able to pick up the torch of freedom and carry it onward, because freedom is not free and this nation can achieve greatness.
Thank you. Candidate Yellow.
After hearing me touch on these topics today that are so dearly important to all of us, I honestly do hope that I was able to convince some of you that together as a country of proud people, we can once again become closer to closing off our borders, fighting and ending our increasing debt, and all around make this country great again. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Candidate Yellow. Candidate Purple.
Let's remember who we are, America. Let's remember our citizens. I mean, if we can cut government spending in half and pay for 2 years of your college education and your college education and your college education and everyone in this auditorium's college education, then let's do it.
Candidate Green.
I believe that we have all made some fairly decent points here today, and I believe that we need to focus a lot more on the middle class in this country instead of the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor, and focus a lot more of our laws towards them. That's all I got.
Thank you, Candidate Green.
In this country and in this century, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter how you start, and it doesn't matter what circumstances you're in now. Here in this nation, every American's life must be filled with the possibilities that come from their God-given gifts. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In this upcoming election, we need a nominee who will uphold and nourish these American values, not someone who will stumble before they get into the ring. I will, with your help and support, lead the resurgence of this great nation.
Candidate Orange.
I have pointed out that our country needs fixing. I will be the one to fix our country. So vote for me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Alrighty, thank you, color candidates. We want to remind everyone that the replies to these questions do not reflect these students' political views, so just remember that. And we encourage all of you who participated in the debate today to vote through the Google form that will be open after the assembly. And make sure you vote for the candidate that you feel or that you agree with the most, and also the one that you do not agree with. So make sure you have those two candidates in mind. Thank you. And then you got